Okay, I'm back. Now, see, I'm breaking this down into little sections. I'm not. My ignorance today is because I'm really believing in what I'm reading here, and this is not really the kind of breaks that I was going to take, but it may be. It may help us get through it. So I've got to go back a little bit and find out where I was, and I will be back. Okay, it was my ignorance that I broke this down. But we're going into reading number 4, Be Your Own Judge, digging deeper. Text number 4. I'm going to hold it up. And you can see that it is titled, and I hope that you can read it. I looked around that time. The verse states in text 4 from Rabbi Dov Ber Shneri of Lubavitch, Mittler Rebbe, 1773 to 1827. The verse states, I have descended to rescue them from the hands of the Egyptians and to bring them up from that land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to a place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. It is known that the reason God gave the land of Israel specifically to the Jewish people, as it is written, and I gave them the land as an inheritance, is so that the Jewish people may refine the 7 negative character traits of evil that are found in the land from the 7 primordial kings of Tohu, chaos. This is achieved through the Jewish people performing Torah and mitzvot specifically in the land of Israel. Thus, we find that most mitzvot are dependent on living in Israel. For example, the entire Mishnaic orders of Zerim, agricultural laws, Kedoshim, temple law, and Tahoros, law of ritual purity, are hinged upon living in the land of Israel, as are the majority of mitzvot, the 613 commandments of the Torah, in the other Mishnaic orders. This brings us to text number 5. Text number 5. The hidden enemy. The hidden enemy. In a reply to a query posed in a private audience in the winter of 5635 from creation, which is 1874 and 75, my grandfather, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, 1902, he's talking about, this is the commentary, this is his letter, his teaching, this is from him. My grandfather said to my father, the Yetzer Hara is called the animal soul, not because it is necessarily a brute animal. At times, it may be a fox, the most cunning of beasts, and great wisdom is needed to perceive its machinations. At other times, it may clothe itself in the garb of an earnest, straightforward, unassuming tzaddik, possessing fine character traits. The animal soul manifests itself in each person according to his individual character. One person may suddenly experience a powerful longing to study Hasidus, righteousness, or to meditate deeply on the Hasidic concept, the righteous concept. The truth is, however, that this is nothing more than the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclinations, counsel, and animal soul's machinations to prevent him from engaging in the service of prayer or a similar activity. Take this as a general principle and remember it always. Any matter that is effective toward or actually leads to active avoda. This means, I'm going to look, avoda means work, worship, or service. Okay? Work, worship, or service is avoda. and is confronted with opposition of any sort, even the most noble, that opposition is the scheming of the animal soul. That opposition is the scheming of the animal soul. My father concluded, until then I had not known that there can be a pious animal soul, let alone a Hasidic animal soul. The Babylonian Talmud tractate Shabbos 105b. The Babylonian Talmud is the oral law written, brought down, explained. He who rends, tears his garments in his anger. He who breaks his vessels in his anger, and he who scatters his money in his anger, regard him as an idolater. For such are the wiles of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. Today, he says, do this. Tomorrow, he says, do that. Until he says, go and serve idols. And he, the individual, goes and serves them. Listen, they are telling us today. I mean, my gosh, think about the mask. Think about what's going on. Today, I told you to do this. Oh, and then tomorrow I said, maybe not. And what they're doing is training us. This is what it's telling us. They are training us so that when they say, go to that is holy, it will be an idol. They are training people to follow the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, Satan. And this is text 6. That's what it was. 6 and then text 7. All right. Text 7 is from the Talmud tractate, Sukkah 52b. Rabbi Avira, or as some say, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, expounded the evil inclination has 7 names. Okay, I'm going to go through this, the 7 names. The Holy One, blessed be he, called it evil, as it is said, for the inclination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Moshe called it a foreskin, as it is said, circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart. David called it impure, as it is said, create me a pure heart, O God, which implies that there is an impure one. Shlomo, Solomon, called it the enemy, as it is said, if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For you will heap coals of fire upon his head, and God will reward you. Do not read, will reward you, but will cause, this is the meaning, do not read, it will reward you, but will cause it to be at peace with you. Feed that animal a little bit. Let it be satisfied enough that it won't come after you all the time, but keep it in the private. Don't harm any other souls. Isaiah called it a stumbling block, as it is said, pave, clear the way, remove the stumbling blocks from the way of my people, those who are following the Father. Ezekiel called it a stone, as it is said, and I will take away the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. I will soften your heart, not as Pharaoh's was hardened. Joel called it the hidden one, as it is said, but I will remove far off from you the hidden one. Our rabbis taught the verse in Joel states, but I will distance from you the northern one, Zephoni. This refers to the evil inclination which is constantly hidden, Zephon, in the heart of man. In the heart of man. And then we come to text number 8. Midrash Breshit Rabbah 22:6. And text 9, identifying the hidden enemy. Okay, there you go. Rabbi Tachum, the son of Merion, said, "There are dogs in Rome that know how to effectively persuasive. How to be effectively persuasive. There are dogs that know how to mislead their masters. The dog goes and sits by the store and appears as if he is sleeping. The owner of the store, lulled into complacency, also sleeps. The dog then grabs the loaf of bread, and before the owner realizes what's happening, he runs off with the bread." Think about it. Meditate on that for a while. Identifying the hidden enemy. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, Ingot HaKodesh, Volume 10, paragraph or page 338. Ingot HaKodesh is a section of Hebrew and Yiddish letters penned by the Rebbe. There was 200. A lot of them have been written. So this is referring back to another one probably. "You write that my previous letter caused you despair, etc., etc. It is obvious that this was certainly not my intent, and as such, my letter could not have brought about such consequences. The despair is simply the The despair is simply the tactics of the Yetzer Hara, who seeks to disrupt a person in any way possible. So much, it will sometimes even agree to don a cloak of pious and God-fearing chesed righteousness, as is cited in the Hayom Yom, the daily teaching for 23 Sivan. It's talking about the letter we read earlier. "I have written many times and will repeat it again that you are really able to be happy with your lot, notwithstanding all the issues you have raised in your letters. Specifically, so when being joyous with your lot will itself improve many of those very issues, as I pointed out in your various points that I marked in my previous letters." What he's saying is, be satisfied with what you have. Your lot comes from God, and if you're satisfied with that and can walk with that and know that and be happy, it will make you happy. It'll take the evil inclination. It'll beat it down. Be happy with what you have or what you can have or what God is giving you. And that brings us to the next 10a, 10b, and 10c, judging your inner demons. This is to judge your inner demons. You are the judge. Appointing judges for combat, because you have to combat the evil inclination. Isaiah 26:6. And I'm going to do a reading from Isaiah. If you've got this far, I'm going to do the Haftorah, which is Isaiah chapter 1. Boy, it goes right along. "And for a spirit of justice to him who sits in judgment, and for might for those who bring back the war to the gate." That's 10a. 10b, the Talmud Tractate, Sanhedrin 111b. "And for a spirit of justice." This is going to be explaining this verse. "And for a spirit of justice, this is one who rules his Yetzer Hara, who sits in judgment. This is a judge who issues a true ruling. And for might, this is one who overcomes his Yetzer Hara." Rashi, commentary. Rashi lived. Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhak, Rashi, he lived, and he gives us the basic commentary of Torah from 1040 to 1105. And he's going to be talking about this verse. Add for a spirit of justice, and for a spirit of justice. One who judges, his spirit is one who rules his Yetzer Hara. He rejects his Yetzer Hara and repents from the sin that he committed in the past. One who overcomes his Yetzer Hara, this refers to a person who rallies his Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, Tov is good, Yetzer inclination, against his Yetzer Hara, the evil, okay, the, Ra, evil, Yetzer inclination, Yetzer Hara. When the Yetzer Hara tells him to do a sin, not only does he not commit a sin, but he does a mitzvah, a good deed. He keeps a commandment of the Torah instead. Overcoming is stronger expression than ruling. So he overcame. That's big. This brings us to text number 11. Rabbi Shmuel Borenson, 1855 to 1926. The Talmud places one who issues a true ruling in between the one who rules his Yetzer Hara and one who overcomes his Yetzer Hara. The context suggests that one who issues a true ruling refers to one who issues a true ruling with regards to his Yetzer Hara, and he doesn't allow himself to be blinded and to confuse good for bad. Rather, understands and judges his every action to determine whether it is coming from, where it is coming from, and where it will lead him. The verse lists 3 levels in ascending order of conquering the Yetzer Hara. The spirit of justice refers to one who rules his Yetzer Hara in the sense that he rejects it and repents from sin, which is known to him. This type corresponds to the first kind of Yetzer Hara. The second level is to honestly assess oneself so that he should not be convened by the Yetzer Hara. See, I've read that many times and still say it wrong. Let me go back. The second level is to honestly assess oneself so that he should not be connived by the Yetzer Hara, who tells him that the sin is not a sin, or that it is in fact a mitzvah. This is harder to accomplish than the first type, because the Yetzer Hara is very devious. This type of Yetzer Hara is worse than the first. The third level is one who overcomes his Yetzer Hara completely. For such a person, if the Yetzer Hara tells him to sin, not only does he not commit the sin, he does a mitzvah instead. This is an even higher level of service than ordinary mitzvah performance, for he is now performing a mitzvah with the strength of the Yetzer Hara, a level called It-Hapka, transforming darkness to light and bitterness to sweet, using the Yetzer Hara's strength as an impetus for additional mitzvah performance. Now, it is known that every mitzvah has its specific spiritual force. One can suggest that the mitzvah of appointing judges corresponds to this hidden form of Yetzer Hara. God gives man the strength and clarity to be a truthful judge of himself and to determine between right and wrong. Well, our kids can't do it. The people out here are not doing it. It follows that in order to conquer the land of Israel from the 7 impure kings and impure forces, and especially from the 7th force, the hidden one, which is as severe as all of the others combined, it is necessary to appoint judges, righteous judges. For by doing so, we can weed out the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, from the hearts, not only of the Jewish people, but of all people. God is in all of us. That brings us to 12 and 12b. This will be the end of our reading, and 13. So I'm going to hold it up, and then I'm going to flip the page so that you can have the end of 13. Getting ready for war. Is that not what we're doing? Is that not where we're at? Is that not where we're preparing for? Because we haven't come to the wars and rumors of wars. Okay? So, getting ready for war. Mishli. This is Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. For a commandment is a candle, and the Torah is light, and disciplining rebukes are the way of life. Rabbi Dovid Al-Shnir, 1687 to 1769. One who learns Torah, it will be for him like the light of day. It is to truly learn it, to understand it, to read the commentaries from the people it was given to, the great rabbis, the ancient rabbis, the elders, the rabbis of today, Messiah. Okay, this is God's covenant with who he chose, not who we chose. So let's bring text 13, Talmud Tractate, Kedoshim 30b. The Holy One, blessed be he, says to the Jews, my children, I created the evil desire, but I also created the Torah as its antidote. There's the antidote to everything is the Torah. It wasn't given to the nations, but if we go and we grasp the hem of a Jew and we learn properly, it is the antidote to all illnesses, sicknesses, diseases, despair. I'm not perfect. I fall into those things, and I have to judge my Yetzer Hara. I am not the most righteous. I am not better than anybody else. I've just studied a lot of this. The Holy One, blessed be he, says to the Jews, my children, I created the evil desire, but I also created the Torah as his antidote. If you occupy yourselves with Torah, you will not be delivered into its hand. For it is said, if you do well, shall you not be exalted? But if you do not occupy yourself with Torah, you shall be delivered into its hand. For it is written, sin crouches at the door, is always ready to pounce. Moreover, it is altogether preoccupied with you, to make you sin. For it is said, and on you shall be his desire. Yet if you will, you can rule over it. For it is said, and you shall rule over him. It was taught in the school of Rabbi Yishmael by my son. If this repulsive wretch assails you, lead him to the schoolhouse. If he is of stone, he will dissolve. If iron, he will shiver into fragments. For it is said, is not my word like as fire, says God, and like a hammer that beats the rock in pieces. If he is of stone, he will dissolve. For it is written, Ho, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. And it is said, the waters were stone. Look, we hear lots and lots of interpretations and sermons about a lot of these words in the Christian community that never studied in Hebrew, that never studied the rabbis, and they have a different meaning. And true, every verse in the Torah has 70 different meanings because there are 70 different nations that have 70 different education systems, that have 70 different philosophies. And so our individual actions, our individual teachings that we only can do. We don't know what's going on or how other countries lived before. We're not taught there. So we don't judge. We don't understand the big cities. We don't judge. We shouldn't judge if we're not living in their shoes. If we're not in their skin color, of their tone, we should not judge. If anybody goes to his own type of people, whether it be white, black, brown, whatever, when he goes into his community, into his nation, we should not judge. We should not call them racist. We should not call them evil names, because it is inherently instilled within our DNA and our genetics to go to people like us. When I changed to this, and when I began to read and to study and to know more, I lost a lot of friends and people. But it is said that as you become more righteous and walk that narrow path, and you stay on the path, you will go farther from not only your children and your parents and the people in the world. You come closer to God, and if they're not walking with you, they're falling behind. If they're not at your level. See, my level is where I'm at. My teachings and my abilities come from my experiences in life, not yours. Yours don't come from me. I'm trying to give you knowledge that I've received and an opinion that I have developed because I've done some things out here in this world that others haven't. I've studied and I've been in places that others can't go. I'm not bragging. I'm not being self-righteous. I'm just saying the truth. God has saved me many, many times from death. My mother tells stories of when I almost choked to death as a child on a lifesaver. The only thing is I turned blue. The only thing that saved me is she grabbed me up under her arm. And when she did, she done the Heimlich, and she didn't know what it was doing. And it brought the lifesaver out because everything before didn't do it. She told me that story yesterday. I know for a fact that I got intoxicated and I got pulled out to sea in the Gulf of Mexico by a riptide. I prayed to God to put me on the beach, and I promised him I wouldn't go back in that water. I have not been back in that water because I could not beat that. I began to pray when I was starting to flounder, when I ran out of the energy I couldn't see. I mean, people on the beach looked like ants. I woke up on the beach, or I found myself on the beach. I got up and went to the car. I waited on my family to come. Things happen. That is 2 incidents, and there were many more, where I know that I should be dead, that I should not be here, and God has given me a mission, and I know, and I pray that that mission is to help one soul. If I can help one come closer to him. I can be rejected by the entire world, but I need that one. I'm not telling you to come to the altar and pray to Jesus or Yeshua. And I'm not bringing this down as a pastor does. What I'm doing is I'm trying to tell you who I am in a nice, peaceful way. I have been violent in my heart, in my mind. Never harmed anybody. Not since I was 25 years old was the last time that I laid a hand on another person in anger. I won't do it again if I can help it. But should the mob come to my house, to my land, I shall protect it. That is today's lesson. I am going to do a reading next after I close this out, which means that I'm going to have 4 videos going up. An 11-minute one, a 3-minute one, and then the one that brought me to this one. I may have 5, I don't know. But anyway, follow them along if you can put up with me that long, if you can go along with me, if you can stand my voice. But I'm going to read the Haftorah from my Chumash today. It pertains to the beginning of what we're saying. It's Isaiah chapter 1, verses 1 through 27. I want everybody to go read it, and I'm going to read it to you in a direct translation from the Hebrew. And I pray that you all come to the Father, for we were commanded to go to the Father. No other. If you go to another, it's idolatry. I'm sorry. If I offend you, then I offend you. But I will not offend the Father, the Creator, God, King and Creator of the heavens and the earth, of all of the angels, of mankind. I won't offend him. Not even for his Son. You must respect the Creator. There is only one. There can be no other. He was both male and female. He did create the evil inclination so that he could create the good inclination. We're here for a purpose, of which we don't know. After we pass on, we go back to him, and there's something new that's going to start soon. Messiah is coming. He's coming to teach and to bring us to the next level. With that I say, may Hashem bless and guard you in this time of trouble. May he be gracious to you and give you his peace. I pray that you come to peace with what you have, that you come to peace with your soul, and that you be happy, because that is what it says. Praise, honor, and glory be to him. Amen. Amen. Amen.